We're away. Michael, how are you?
Good. I'm well. How are you,
Good, mate.
Mark?
Good. So this is our first time we've done this. We're doing a bit of a Zoom call or Zoom recording because I've started to coach you to help you out into your next race at Hervey Bay with 100, which is 7 weeks away, 8 weeks away.
7 weeks on. It'll be 7 weeks on Sunday.
7 weeks on Sunday.
So
So
not a lot of time.
not a lot of time.
I heard you're a miracle worker.
I'm not a religious man, so I don't know. Maybe we should start praying. But anyway, no, that's for sure. So we thought it would be a good idea to, your followers and your audience at Custom Bike Fit and with what I'm doing with World Multisport to give people an insight into a coach-athlete relationship and how a normal age group athlete will go about things and the thinking behind the program. And everyone really wants to know, okay, why are you doing that program? What are the sessions about? How it relates to you. So we're going to do this once a week up until Hervey Bay, just to give people an insight into, the type of training that you're doing, and I guess letting people know that beyond the bike fitter, you're also an athlete as well. So I guess to start with, we had a bit of a, we've known each other for some time now, and I've sent a lot of clients your way because I do believe you're an outstanding bike fitter. And you've certainly helped me out with my own bike fits over the years. So I guess, and I've known that you've got a lot of experience as an athlete, both Ironman and half Ironman. But a few weeks ago, you did the Sunny Coast 70.3 off, let's just say minimal training. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a long break since, I think the last time I trained seriously was 2017 leading into Ironman WA. And then there's been no structure since then. And I've had a lot of time off altogether. I was doing some training into the Sunny Coast, but it was more around opportunity than anything else. And I had no structure, no program. I'm going out and doing a ride, often riding with others, and probably not doing the right thing. And with that became apparent on race day. Very little running. Did very little running going into the Sunny Coast. And when I did up my volume, when I entered 3 weeks out and went, oh my goodness, I haven't done any long runs for, we're talking a couple of years. I went and ran 17K, which I got through. And then I backed up in the week. And in a 5-day period, I did 42 kilometers. And guess what? I got injured. So I spent the next 2 weeks managing that injury. And then you turn up on race day. And I think it was 5 kilometers into the run. And I was tired. I was 4 hours into a race, and my longest bike ride had been 3 hours. So I'm tired. My feet are hurting, and your motivation's low. Because I was always just doing it to finish. And Hervey Bay was always the race that was in the back of my mind anyway, because I'm part of that event every year as a sponsor. So, and having known you for so long and picking up on our relationship just a few weeks ago, one of the things that it was so easy to sit down and talk to you about anything. We had a fair chat. So immediately I'm thinking, if I need some guidance, you're probably not the worst person to go to. You know me as an individual, and I respect you as a coach.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So that's good. So got through Sunny Coast, pulled up a bit sore, and then you've come out the other side, and we've started working together post Sunny Coast to see what we can do for Hervey Bay 100. So, you haven't done too much for coming on 2 to 3 years now, over 50, so you're a master's athlete. So what we're looking at, I guess, physiologically is the aerobic conditioning process. Whilst you've got a lot of experience as an athlete, it's not as good as it has been in the past, and Hervey Bay is in a 280 and 18 distance. So we do need to work on that aerobic capacity. So when we sat down together and we spoke about your training, what are the things, I guess, for you that are important in terms of your training and your goals? What are you looking for as an athlete?
For me, it's, and it's the same whether I'm working or whether I'm training or competing. It's just to do my best.
Yeah.
I'd love to, and I've won my age group a few times at Hervey Bay. I don't know if that's realistic. I just would like to go along and do my best, and that's enough for me to feel like I've gotten the most out of the out of my time on the course.
Okay. All right. So you wanted to do this. And in the past, when you have been racing more often and up until a few years ago, what was the type of programming or principles that you followed when it came to your training?
Yeah. Well, I've tried a few coaches over the years, and they differed in their approach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of strange. I'm trying to think. A lot of aerobic conditioning, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, aerobic conditioning being the base of everything.
Yep.
You know,
yep.
If you like baking a cake.
Yep. Yep.
And having a solid cake.
Yep. Yep.
And then layering on a little bit of icing on
mm-hmm.
top of the cake. You know,
mm-hmm.
if you want to call that speed work. But the majority of it being aerobic conditioning,
mm-hmm.
not a huge amount of speed work.
Mm-hmm.
Now that said, and that was the last, I guess, if you like, the last sort of coaching the last coach I had, that was his thought process. But I've worked with a coach prior to that who, I guess, sort of neglected some of the aerobic conditioning and went, okay, with time poor, we're just going to do a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I just think that the last few months that I've been training, I've just been lost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had, we've only I got a program for you, I think Wednesday. It's Friday.
Yep.
And the thing that goes through my head, and it's only been 3 days, is the one word is refreshing.
Okay, that's good. So I guess the reason I asked you that is that as coaches, we all have a slightly different way of doing things and a slightly different philosophy. But I do think most coaches appreciate the aerobic capacity required to perform well in triathlon.
Yes.
And there are different ways you can achieve aerobic capacity. So if you're doing a time crunched program and you haven't got as much time, so your volume is lower, generally doing more intensity will compensate for lack of volume and improve aerobic capacity. The trade-off is it's more stressful on your central nervous system and it can be more fatiguing. And to do a low volume, high intensity program, you kind of need a very established base of aerobic capacity already. And then, the previous coach, you can go into a more of a volume-based program with not so much intensity, and that requires a bit of time. And it leaves you, it stresses you, but probably not as much as a high-intensity type program. So in your situation, I think the couple of things that we had to look out for were, one, obviously, overcoming the injury that you just sort of had from doing a bit of too much training too soon. And the other thing that I identified in your training that you said you're just floating and, not doing too much and there wasn't much structure. There was a lot of moderate pace work in your training. Yeah. It wasn't easy and it wasn't hard. So, and that's really common for a lot of age groupers if they're not following a structural program. And generally that's fine if you just want to sort of maintain and keep healthy and fit. But I think when it comes to actually targeting a race, you got to pick and stick. Whether it's a low volume, high intensity or a high volume, low intensity or whatever, you've got to sort of pick and stick and give the program time to work. So I guess straight away, we're removing that moderate pace work in your program and we're going for more of a polarized approach.
Yeah.
So we might sort of give everyone a bit of an idea. So for example, in the bike this morning, just sort of give us a bit of an indication of what you did this morning in the bike.
Okay, so the scheduled session was to go out and ride for 90 minutes. It was an easy ride.
Yep.
And by easy, I the way I read that is my heart rate was low.
Yep.
But I'm pushing the biggest gear I can.
Yep.
I went and did that over undulating terrain, and every 20 minutes I did a 15-second all-out sprint.
Yep. Yep.
But I basically got out of the saddle, punched it pretty hard.
And how did you find that ride overall in terms of, say, RPE out of 10 out of 10 being maximal and 0 being asleep? What was your overall RPE for a ride like that, do you think?
Probably around 4 out of 10.
Yep.
The hard part for me was the sprints.
Yep.
Not so much the sprints, but the recovery from the sprint.
Yeah.
Right? That 10, 15 seconds it's actually when you let go afterwards. It's that release. It's
yeah.
But
Yeah.
But again, even that's refreshing. I don't do that. I've not done that sort of stuff before.
Yeah. So to give people an idea, the reason behind that is so, we want to rebuild your aerobic capacity. We don't have the aerobic capacity to do high intensity work in bike or run. And when I mean high intensity, a traditional 3-minute and above intervals at 85 to 90% of your max. If we went out and did that on the bike and the run now, you'd fatigue, not recover, not be able to be consistent, and potentially get injured as well. So we're focusing on the aerobic capacity, but by putting these little micro bursts in there, we're stimulating what's called the neuromuscular system. So we're not completely doing aerobic capacity work. We are doing a little bit of intensity within an aerobic session. So if you do that, so with every 20 minutes and a 90, that was 4 sprints. We do that three or 4 times a week in your ride. We're getting a lot of time cumulatively at high intensity, but it's not delivering the normal stress of high intensity work on your central nervous system. And so you're allowed, you can recover better. It's a reasonably new way of training. And it's, people have your traditional base periods where they'll go out and ride long, slow miles and run long, slow miles and swim long, slow miles. At the end of the day, whilst it builds aerobic capacity, it actually does make you slow. Your movement patterns don't become efficient. Like as a runner, you can become a plodder, and as a swimmer, you can do bad techniques. So it doesn't matter what time of year you're in, you should always be doing some element of fast training. And so that's what we're trying to do with that bike session. And then just before we started recording, we were talking about your swim session. So tell us about the swim and what that was.
Yeah. So today's swim, it wasn't a long swim. It was I totaled up 1.9 kilometers. So 5 by 100 meters with a pull buoy. So 5 100s with a 15-second rest interval, no time cycle. And then it was 48 25. So 12 25s, 3 easy, 1 hard.
That was on 30 seconds? Yep.
On 30 seconds. And then 12 25s, 2 easy, 1 hard. So we're getting more hard work on 35 seconds.
Yep.
And then 12, 1 easy, 1 hard on 40 seconds.
Yep.
And then all 12 hard on 45 seconds.
Yep.
And they were using paddle and pull buoy.
Yep. So the reason for the paddle and the pull buoy is to develop strength, and also yourself, like a lot of age group males, we don't sit well in the water. So using the pull buoy and the paddle, the pull buoy sits you up higher, which means you can take more effective strokes, and the paddles are for strength. And this one, not a long set, and still it's probably, that's the 3rd and 4th set of those 25s are hard. But in terms of stress on your central nervous system, it's not that significant. So you can do a reasonably hard session in the pool, but it doesn't have a big impact on your ability to recover. But before we started recording, you were telling me that you didn't find that session that particularly hard.
I found it easy.
So my response to you was, you weren't going hard enough in the hard ones. And the reason I think is because in a period where people just get into a routine of training for training's sake, they just get used to going moderate, and there's no polarity in their training. So your body has almost become used to going moderate pace. So we've got to try and find its equilibrium again between easy and hard. So next time I was, to do that set, I'll ask you to go really, really hard. Because when you do that set, when you get to the 3rd and 4th sets, you should be blowing really hard, and the recovery is actually seem quite short, despite the fact that they're getting longer. And I think that's a really important point for anyone listening, is the moderate stuff, or the tempo stuff, which is about your 7 to 8 out of 10 perceived intensity, or about 75 to 80% of your max heart rate. So pace you can hold for a good 30 minutes to 45 minutes tempo. It does have its place. There's no doubt about it. And it can improve aerobic conditioning, but it does work better once you've already got an established base. And it works better traditionally for long course triathlon events like you're doing at the back end of sessions. So say, for instance, you're doing a 3-hour ride, you might do 2 hours really easy, but in the last hour, you might do 4 by 10 minutes at your tempo moderate at race pace. And what that does is that lifts your threshold, your lactate threshold, which is, the higher your lactate threshold is, the faster you can go for longer. But to get those types of adaptations, we need aerobic capacity, and we also need a bit of that top end neuromuscular power so you can recruit the muscle fibers. So what we're doing in your situation is we're essentially fitting the program to the person. So I've assessed you as a masters athlete, got a long background in sports, very experienced, you haven't trained much. So it's about, okay, well, we've got 7 and a bit weeks. There's not a lot of time. How can we deliver the best result in 7 weeks for you? Considering those circumstances. So that's the type of philosophy. So the other interesting comment you made earlier in the week was the wind trainer session, the indoor session. You said you found it surprisingly more challenging than what you thought.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that one.
Yeah, so that session, from memory, 20 minutes sort of warming up, easy to a sort of solid, I think it was. And by that I took, so you can feel some load under the pedal.
Yep.
And then it was some one-leg drills, and that's what I found difficult. The one-leg drills in particular, because I haven't done any. I haven't done any for many, many, many years. And I think more than anything that's what fatigued me, is those 1 minute drills. The 1 minute intervals that we did after that, so a minute on and a minute off, that's something that I've been used to doing. In the past, I've done a lot of that. But what I tended to do with those is do it at a very low cadence.
Yep.
Whereas, because I'd been doing those fast drills, I was picking my cadence up a little bit on these. Power, force times velocity. I find it easier to hit those power numbers if I'm pushing a bit faster, but my heart rate goes up. So I tend to, and I'm that kind of guy who tends to want to be, that diesel engine, boom, bring that heart rate down, boom, 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 boom. So it's just different. It's something that I'm not used to. Which again, for me, what's nice to me is that I don't have to. I'll go to the pool the last 6 weeks and stuff, and I'm like, I kind of make it up as I'm going there. And even when I get in, I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to do this now. You know what I mean? I'll do this one. That feels better. I'm not challenging myself. And then you end up doing 2.5K, and so it's just nice not to have to think. It's like, this is what I need to do. Don't question it. I say to people, whether they're choosing a bike fitter or whether they're choosing a coach, do your due diligence, and then you're in. Feel that. People, it's like they go to the casino and they stand around the roulette table, and they put their money down, and then they start sweating when the wheel's spinning. Well, it's too late, mate. You should have thought about this earlier. So it's nice again to be able to go, get on the bike, get in the pool, whatever it is, and go, this is what I'm doing. Do not think about it. It's been thought for you. Someone else has.
And that's a key point there, that the coach should have, and, there are some really good coaches out there, but there are also some cowboys, should have thought about the session that is going to be suitable to you as the athlete, what you need at that particular time. And that's the principle around fitting the program to the person, which is what we're going to try and go through these next 7 weeks, so people get a bit of an idea as to, why we're doing the sessions we're doing for you. So for that, if we go back to that trainer session, at the one-legged stuff is about, and through bike fitting, it's about having, typically at the top of the pedaling circle is where people lose, their force production. And one-legged drills can be really good just because they help you identify if there are any weak spots. So if you're fatiguing, or if you're not, if you can't maintain that force on the pedal through the top of the pedal stroke, it shows you that. And also just doing it on the trainer. I think the trainers are just fantastic for cadence variation. I'm not, I'm a big believer in low RPMs and strength and maximum force on the pedals for triathlon, but we still need to do high RPM work to stimulate the fast twitch fibers and the neuromuscular system at that high end. And again, it's giving the body polarity. So the key is to have every goal has to have a session. Every session has to have a goal. Every session has to have a goal and a purpose, and that forms part of the overall plan. So, look, I think I'm hoping that, over the next 7 weeks, people get a pretty good idea of what we're doing, and we can also measure your progress in terms of, think we did another session during the week, and it was a really simple session that I like in the pool was 40-50s pull and paddle on 2 minutes, 4 easy, 1 hard, and that's primarily an aerobic session, but there's a series of hard 50s in there. And the challenge is not so much maintaining the times of the hard 50s, it's maintaining the time of the easy 50 after you've done a hard 50. And if you can do that, what that indicates is, again, that your lactate threshold is rising because you'll have produced lactate at the end of a hard 50, and then it's your body's ability to buffer that lactate. And that's the key. So next week, that'll remind me, we'll go into actually what lactic acid is. It's not it's actually an energy source. It's not the, So we'll go into things like that and try and give people a little bit more of the science behind why we're doing things and how you can measure things from week to week. So, and then just to finish with tomorrow, I think it's just a sort of an easier long ride and then a longish run on Sunday. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah.
So 3 hours tomorrow.
Yep.
Lots of hills.
Yep.
Again, sort of big gear work. I think I read. And Sunday, just a 60-minute run, breathing through the nose.
Yep. And
the soft surface thing, is that, have you prescribed that because I've had the injury with the calves? Because they're fine now.
Yeah, 100%. Even if they're not fine, I just think from a recovery perspective. Yeah, look,
100%.
Soft surface running, especially as we get older, it's just greater recovery.
Yeah,
that's plain and simple. It comes down to, we need to mix up our surfaces when we run, whether that be from soft surface to trails, grass. If you're like us, we live at the coast, even a bit of soft sand. Treadmill. It's okay to get on the hard surface, but it does, if you're constantly on the hard surface, the risk of injury is higher and you just don't recover as well. So the pace will be slower on soft surface, no doubt, but this type of thing, pace isn't important. It's just getting it done. So that's the reason behind that.
Okay.
All right. Well, mate, good to chat. We'll do this again next week and, give people an idea where we're going.
Good on you.